عايزة All right, welcome guys. I'm just waiting for everybody else to join.
Miss, did you receive my quiz?
Who's speaking? Jumana? Yes, love, I got
Yes.
it. Rahma, I got your quiz.
Miss
Jojo,
and me.
Himo, I got it. Yes, sir, I got your quiz.
Okay.
Hassan, Abdurrahman, did you email it to me, honey? No,
Yes.
I got it. Yes, I got it now. Yes, thank you. I got it.
Okay.
Rahma, I got your quiz, baby. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're all in. Some people did not join yet, so I'm gonna have to start. And if you speak to your classmates, just tell them to please join us. All right, today, according to the weekly plan, I was going to discuss with you today our comparison, compare and contrast essay. All right, so it's very important to understand it because you guys are, like I said, you are going to be graded on it, and it's very important to understand the significance of this essay. All right, and how to construct one. All right, so the first thing that we need to understand is the purpose of a compare and contrast essay. All right, so when we write a compare and contrast essay, we're contrasting or telling the differences and also the similarities. Not only differences, but also the similarities between two subjects. In this case, it's going to be yourself, okay, yourself or you. You're one of the objects or one of the subjects being compared versus the character or one of the characters from the novel itself. Okay, so when we compare two objects or these two subjects, these what these two subjects are. Okay. All right, Noura, I got your quiz. Thank you. All right. So again, we said we're going to compare yourself with a character from the story. Whether your character is anyone, you have the freedom of choice to choose whichever character you are, that you're willing or that you want to compare yourself to. All right. So this is what we need to keep mind on. So to contrast means to tell the differences, and to compare means to tell the similarities. All right. So please bear that in mind. All right. So again, for the people that are just joining us now, we're gonna discuss today the explanation of the essay itself. All right. Compare means to mention the similarities, and to contrast is to mention the differences. All right. Yes.
Did you receive my quiz, Miss?
Yes, honey, I received them. Thank you. Okay, Jumana, I got yours as well.
Did you receive it?
Yes.
كويس. مثل أيام الرحمة. Did you get it?
Did you get mine?
Guys, I got all of yours. If I saw the message, then I got it. Thank you. Okay, now let's please focus on the essay. And I did get all your stuff. So again, when we're contrasting, we're telling the differences. When we are comparing, we're mentioning the similarities. All right? Now, another thing that I want you to talk about today is the structure of the essay. Okay? The structure of the essay is very important. The first thing that we need to do is to brainstorm everything about the two subjects. And this is why I gave you guys the character trait sheet for your characters. Okay? And I told you guys to focus on that one and to get it done so that we can so that you would analyze and study your character very well. All right, so please make sure that you have done that before we go into our before we go into writing. All right, we mentioned that I told you that we needed to answer this sheet because it was going to help us learn more about the character. Okay, so if we're doing here, for example, Pony Boy, we're gonna mention how Pony Boy acts, how Pony Boy feels about his self, about his environment, okay, about his family, all right, how he feels about everything all over. What are the kind of things that he would say? How is his life like? All right, we know that his life is a life full of struggle because he's a greaser, all right, living on the east side, which is the poor. Okay, we know about his education level, all right, or that it's hard for them to get. He's a very intelligent kid, and he is even involved. He's an honor roll student. Okay, so we know that, but we know that he's struggling also with his family. You know, his parent, that he's being raised by his older brother. So all these are things that we can talk about with considering life. His looks, we know his age, and they also give us a good. The first chapter of the novel gave us a very, very good, solid physical appearance for these characters. So again, here, this part where we discuss when we discuss brainstorming, brainstorming is definitely done. All right, you know yourselves, and you're comparing yourselves to that character. Okay, so now I want to discuss another point of thing, or something that we call how are we going to break up this essay. All right, so there's two ways. There's a way or a format called the block way, or there's something called alternating way. Okay, and we're gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you how each one of those, you know what I mean? How each one of them work. Okay, and we're gonna discuss how each one of them works, and then you're going to discuss or see which one is better for you. Okay, they mention here that if the comparison is short, okay, a paragraph or two, then the block method is fine. Alternating is usually preferable for longer comparisons. So again, since we're only doing the 5 paragraphs, then it'll be preferred to use the block method. So now what is the difference between the block method and the alternating method? This is what I want you to do. Remember, this is the structure of our essay. What we're doing now is that we're studying, or we're looking at how are we going to structure our essay? How are we going to break it down? How is it going to look like? All right. So here again, this is a block versus alternating. All right. The block, this is how your block method would look like. You have 5 paragraphs. Okay. And here, again, the first paragraph would be the introduction. Okay. Where you start off with a hook or something interesting. Okay. To get the reader's attention. Okay. Your hook could be a question. It could be a quote. Okay, it could be anything that that is interesting, to make the reader more interested in or want to read your essay. All right, I prefer either asking a question, or, for example, get a quote that could go a quote said by a famous person that you can start it off in your introduction. Okay, then you would put a background information. Background information here includes the name of the novel, okay, the novel title and the author's name. You can give us provide a little summary about the novel itself. What is it about? And then in your thesis, this is the most important statement, and you guys need to be familiar with this word. What is a thesis statement? A thesis statement is a sentence that is your main idea. This is exactly what it's going to tell me exactly what you're doing. So in your thesis statement, you're going to mention the character's name that you're comparing yourself to, and you're going to mention 3 points of discussion. How are you comparing yourselves with you're comparing yourself with this character? In what terms? Okay? And I'm going to provide you an example of how you could compare. In this essay, for example, the person is comparing a BMW car.
Miss, I can't hear you. Miss, I can't hear you.
The comparison.
Miss, I can't hear you properly.
Does everyone hear me, or are you guys struggling to hear me?
No, we hear you now.
Okay.
We hear you.
Okay.
Miss, the group will be Miss, the essay will make it by groups.
No, the essay is for individuals. Remember, I wrote this down in the explanation sheet. The essay is done alone. The other part of the project, where you have 3 or 4 options, this is done with your partner, and I've provided a partner for each person. So this one is done individually. The essay is individual work by yourself. All right. So again, the block method is important to understand, because again, this is what's preferable because we're doing a shorter essay. Okay. This again, what is a block method? What does it do? In the block method, you guys will see that okay, this is an essay made up of 4 paragraphs, an introduction, 1 paragraph for a BMW, and 1 paragraph for a Honda Civic, and then a conclusion. Okay, so you could do it this way. Okay, you can hand in 4 paragraphs if you're doing the block method. What the block method consists of is that you're going to have your introduction paragraph, okay, and then you're going to dedicate 1 paragraph for yourself, to talk about yourself in terms of 3 things. What are some points of comparison that we can have? Of course, you're not using price and mileage and insurance for your points of discussion. So I have researched or came up with some points of discussion that can help you compare.
Your voice is starting to lag. We can't hear your voice properly.
Miss, we can't hear you. Miss, we can't hear you. Your voice sounds like a voice changer.
It sounds like a fan instead of a mic. Try connecting your headphones properly.
All right, so here I joined with my phone so that you guys could hear me better. All right, so again, when we're discussing points of comparison, remember we said that you need to discuss the differences and similarities between you and that character. All right, and one of these points or some of these points of comparison could be these. I provided 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are 6 different points. Are we going to use all of them? No. How many should we use? 3. Okay, just like the PowerPoint here. For the BMW, the person discussed 3 points of comparison and contrast. In contrast, the BMW with the Honda Civic in terms of price, which one is more expensive, which one is cheaper, in terms of mileage and in terms of insurance. Of course, in your essay, you're comparing 2 people. We're comparing yourself versus another character. So, for example, if Ward is comparing himself, so we're going to have Ward versus, and Ward, I believe you chose Pony Boy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here we have Ward versus Pony Boy. All right, so from looking at these, from these points of comparison, what would you choose, Ward? Which points would you focus on?
Actions.
Okay, so you would compare in between you and Pony Boy in terms of actions. What else?
Education.
Okay, what else?
And final thing, speech.
Okay, and speech. All right. So here we know that from your actions they could be different. Okay, we know that Greece, he's actually a part of a gang, so he's forced to get into fights. All right. We also know that he has a curfew, or he hangs out with certain people. We also know about his education, that he goes to school. He's well educated. He has good grades. He's also into track, I believe. We also know that he's a good reader. Okay, so all these things that we can discuss about his education. And from his speech, we know that I believe Pony Boy is not really a user of slang. Okay, unlike the other gangs. Okay, so we know that he's more well spoken than the rest of the gang members. Okay, so let's say, for example, that this is Werd's points of comparison. So how would Werd break down his essay? In the first paragraph, he would have his introduction. And we always said that the introduction should always have a hook. What is a hook? Or what does the purpose of a hook serve in the essay? It helps the reader, or actually the writer, grab the attention of the person reading the essay. I would suggest a hook to be either a question, okay, or a quote that is said by it could be a quote. It could be a quote said by a journalist. It could be a quote by any person with significant influence. Okay, so when you start off your essay with a question, and this question is usually rhetorical, all right, you're not really waiting for a response. Okay, like, have you ever been to Italy? Well, let me tell you about Italy. Okay, so this is a hook. Okay, so either start with a question or with a quote. And if you do mention a quote, you must put it in quotation marks as Abraham Lincoln said. So here, this is an example of a quote said by Abraham Lincoln. So if you're going to mention a quote, make sure that you put it in quote, you enclose it in quotation marks. You capitalize the first word in the quotes, put a comma, end it, and then mention who the speaker was. This is an example of a hook. All right. After you give the hook, we need a little bit of background info. Okay, as we agreed. Now, when we discuss this background info, what did I mention? You, in the background info, you need to provide the following criteria in the, what's going on? All right, in the background info, the first thing that we're going to mention, A, the name of the novel. Novel title. Then you're going to mention the author's name and provide a 3-line summary of the novel. This is very important. Then you're going to give me your thesis. And remember, the thesis is the most important sentence in the introduction paragraph. Your thesis is going to mention the character that you're going to be comparing yourself to with. And please do not ever start your essay with, I will be comparing myself to Ponyboy. You cannot say that. This is a very, very weak thesis statement. It's actually incorrect. This is a weak thesis statement. I can see some similarities and some differences too. They are both somewhat alike and somewhat different. Weak. We need a better thesis statement. Look at this one. Ralph and Jack have very different leadership styles and motivations, which leads to the eventual chaos and anarchy on the island. In order to make a decision between the Honda Civic and the BMW, consider the following criteria: price of the vehicle, average mileage, and price of insurance. So again, what have you realized about a good thesis statement? It mentions the 3 points of comparison without getting into any detail. You're not giving me any details or any explanation in the paragraph, in the first one. All you're gonna do is mention Ralph and Jack. So here you're gonna give me the names of your characters, okay, or who you're comparing, okay? So you're going to say, for example, Ponyboy and I. Okay, so here, what have you done? You mentioned the name of the character you are comparing yourself to. And then what are you going to do after in your thesis statement? You're going to mention 3 points of comparison, of compare and contrast. What are the 3 points that Ward chose? He chose actions, education, and speech. So you could say, Ponyboy and I differ in terms of our actions, our education, and speech. So in this thesis statement, it's a good one. Why? Because number 1, you mentioned your name, and you've mentioned the character that you're comparing yourself to. And not only that, you've successfully mentioned the 3 points of comparison. If you do that in your first paragraph, then you are set. You are set, and you've also did a very good job, all right, in the introduction. So again, in the introduction, what are the 3 main things? Hook, in the shape of a question or a quote. Background info. Don't forget to mention the title of the novel, the author's name, and a 3-line summary. A 3-line summary summing up the details or the significant information that we need to know about the novel. And then finally, you're going to end your introduction paragraph by mentioning your thesis statement, by mentioning the 2 points of comparison, 3 points of comparison, and also mentioning the character's name that you're going to be comparing yourself to. Any questions about the introduction paragraph of how it should look? Okay, so if Ward is doing, and we agreed that we're going to be using the block method, not the alternating method. Okay, and in the block method, Word is going to dedicate one paragraph for himself, and he's going to discuss all three aspects about himself. This is in his second paragraph. And then in his third paragraph, he's going to dedicate it entirely to Ponyboy and discuss all 3 points of comparison related to Ponyboy in the third paragraph. And then finally provide a conclusion. This is the block method. The alternating method is a little different, okay? In the alternating method, this is what we're doing, and I'm going to show you how the alternating method works. If we're doing an alternating method, it's different. Instead of having just 4 paragraphs, we have 5 paragraphs. So what are we doing here is we're dividing the paragraphs by each point of comparison. So what? Would you rather do the alternating method or the block method?
The block method.
Okay, so if you're doing the block method, Ward, then this is what you're gonna do. Okay, let's go back to our breakdown. So you finish the first paragraph. In your second paragraph, you're gonna dedicate it to who? You're gonna dedicate it to yourself. So this paragraph is gonna be all about Ward. In the second paragraph, Ward, you're gonna discuss about yourself. You're gonna talk about yourself in terms of actions, your education, and your speech. Your actions, you're gonna discuss your education, and you're gonna discuss your speech. And then your third paragraph is gonna be dedicated to who, Ward?
Ponyboy.
Exactly. Okay, so you're gonna dedicate it to Ponyboy. And what are the 3 things that you're gonna discuss? The same 3 points of comparison and contrast. Again, here you're gonna discuss actions, education, and speech, but now you're not talking about Ward or yourself anymore. You're discussing Ponyboy. All right, so here, this is the difference. Okay, introduction, second paragraph entirely about Ward, discussing all 3 points related to what? These are my points of comparison. And then all 3 points of comparison are dedicated to Ponyboy only in the third paragraph. We're not mentioning Ward at all in the third paragraph. We finished talking about him in the second. And then finally, your fourth paragraph here would be your conclusion. Okay, your fourth paragraph is your conclusion. And then in the conclusion, if we go back here, what are we doing? We're gonna emphasize major ties and give what we call a clincher. If we go back to our assignment, all right, we want our essay to be consistent, to be well organized. Organization, this is what I'm helping you with right now, to have a very coherent and not confusing essay. I don't want paragraphs to be all over the place. I want to know that each paragraph is dedicated for what exactly. Okay, and remember, you're gonna be graded on this, so please take this seriously. In your conclusion, you're going to summarize your previous points. All right, you're gonna restate them and emphasize. What does it mean to emphasize? To really stress, okay? Really stress emphasize points of similarities and also emphasize points of difference. So here you would say, all right, so here you would say in conclusion, all right, and summarize everything that you mentioned before. And then you would say Ponyboy and I really differ when it comes to, for example, our lives. He leads a life of poverty and struggle, whereas my life is more comfortable. I enjoy the ability of living with my parents. They also help me financially. I don't struggle. I don't have to fight to maintain a certain reputation on the street. Anyway, so this is what I want you to focus on. Summarizing your points, emphasizing points of similarities, and emphasizing points of differences. Okay, now remember, this is a breakdown of which method. Which method was this?
The block method.
Good, this was the block method, remember. Okay, let's say now Ward wants to do the alternating method. In the alternating method, instead of having 4 paragraphs, we have 5 paragraphs. So again, the alternating method is different. Again, it's very similar. All right, in breakdown. All right, in our first paragraph, again, it's still the introduction, and we're doing the same thing that we did in the introduction above. Now, your second and third and fourth paragraphs, they're not dedicated to people anymore. They're not dedicated to Ponyboy or Ward. They're dedicated to each point of comparison. So in the second paragraph, we're going to discuss actions. Actions of who? Actions for both Ward and Ponyboy. In the third paragraph, we're going to discuss what? What is our second point of comparison? We discussed education. So here in the third paragraph, we're going to talk about education as a topic. But for who? For both. For both Ward and Ponyboy. And then in the fourth paragraph, we're going to discuss our third point of comparison, which is speech. And we're going to dedicate it for both Ward and Ponyboy. And then finally, our fifth is going to be our conclusion. And we're doing everything the same. In the conclusion also, we're going to summarize and then emphasize the points of similarities and emphasize the points of differences. But this is the alternating method. So please start getting your methods broken down, or your homework for tonight. If you guys look at your little weekly plans, I need you to complete the point-by-point essay sheet. And this is exactly how you're going to construct. Okay, you're going to tell me which method you're using. Are you going to use the block method, or are you using the alternating method? So today for homework, I need you guys to fill me in today what your hook is going to be, the background info, okay, your thesis statement for the introduction, and then I need you to tell me if you're using the alternating method to do something like this, and for the block method to show me what you're going to discuss. Any questions about what you're going to do today for homework? What I just did now is what you guys are going to do. You're going to write it on a piece of paper and take a picture of it and send it to me by tonight.
Miss, will we do the Venn diagram again?
The Venn diagram is just a step to get you closer. If you have already finished it, you're done. If you didn't, you need to go back and fill it in with the 3 points of your.
We submit the rough draft on Saturday.
Does it say that on the weekly plan?
It says
Yes.
it is due on Saturday.
Yes, exactly. So your rough draft, which is your first version of the essay, It could have mistakes. I'm not grading that. I'm not giving you the final grade on this one, but I do need it because you're going to be graded on submitting a rough draft. Okay, remember I said you're going to have to submit a few things. One of them is a Venn diagram, the characterization sheet, your rough draft, and I also need you to tell me the point and send me a point by point essay sheet of your essay breakdown, telling me which method are you going to be doing. Is it going to be the block method or is it going to be the alternating method? And I need you to break it down for me. Okay, what is your hook going to be? What is your thesis going to be like? What is going to be discussed in your second paragraph, in your third, and your conclusion? Okay? Any questions about what we just did today? Okay, one more thing that I want to discuss with you before we go, before our time is up. Tala, you have a question?
Miss, can you upload this video on Smart School?
I'm definitely
The
going to
video
upload this video, and I'm also going to upload this sheet. Okay, this explanation sheet that I'm using right now, points of comparison notes. Okay, I'm going to upload this to help you understand the difference between which method. Another thing that I want you to understand while you're writing your essay, it's very important to use signal words. And what are signal words? They're words that they help me understand what you're doing. In what terms? If you're saying something that is similar, we're going to say alike, Pony Boy and I score honor roll in school. Likewise, we are both, let's say, for example, 13. Similar to Pony Boy, I also enjoy running and I also enjoy reading. So whenever you're using these clue words, they help me understand and they improve your writing and the quality of your essay. So it's very important to use them. I'm going to be grading you also, if you look at your rubric, I need you guys to use these signal words. And I didn't put them in the sheet for nothing. So when you're writing your rough drafts, have these words in front of you so that you can use them and insert them in the places where they belong. If you're contrasting, you're saying things that are different. Okay. On the other hand, you can mention about yourself first. Like, for example, what could say, I am a 7th grader living in Egypt, attending Persaid International School. On the other hand, Pony Boy lives in so-and-so and he goes to a so-and-so school. So again, points of comparison, they use a specific type of words, and points of contrast, they also use a specific type of words. So please use these signal words in your rough drafts. I'm going to be searching for them. And I even want to take it a step further to ensure that you use them. I need you to highlight them in your rough drafts because it will help me see that you're using them. So again, whenever you use them in your essay, highlight them with a highlighter or so on. The next thing that on the list that I wanted to actually provide for you is, if you look at the weekly plan, I had intended on discussing something called the MLA format. And your MLA format, I'm going to have to keep it for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to introduce our new play, which is called Lucy Stone, Champion of Women Rights. You guys already saw a video about the introduction. I'm going to go over it again, and we're going to start reading some of it. It's a very short play. It's way shorter than A Christmas Carol. Okay? And then I'm going to go into explaining the predicate nominative and the subject, the predicate nominative and the predicate adjective. At the end of the grammar is not going to take us that long. It's very simple. I'm going to
Mrs.
squeeze
There
in
is gonna
MLA
be
format.
grammar quiz.
Yes, Adam, we have a grammar quiz scheduled on Thursday.
Miss, when is
So
the
you-
deadline for the rough draft?
The rough draft I said to hand it in on Saturday. The rough draft needs to be due
The next Saturday, right?
January 16th, this Saturday.